prove myself, prove that I can do this by myself, instead of being like, well, hold on, if this class isn't the place that I should be, then I'm allowed to take myself out of there, instead of having to try and go through these mindset shifts or other things within that environment, and just giving ourselves permission to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Just like some dancers start to work with me because they are really struggling with perfectionism and constantly trying to make up for their own insecurities. And it's so exhausting and unhealthy for them. Sometimes the answer is, okay, we can shift some of your beliefs, change your relationship with yourself, examine your expectations and where you got those expectations from. Sometimes that's the answer. There are some times where I have guided a dancer through the process of deciding to leave a studio that they've committed to for several years, so that they can give themselves the chance to flourish somewhere else. And there's a lot of fear with that, of course. What will my teachers think? What if the move doesn't work and I have to go back and I feel ashamed? But yeah, I guess faith is always a huge theme for me, no matter, there are many applications of that word, but I just think we really need to have faith in ourselves, but also beyond ourselves. And we can put so much faith in just what we see. Like, oh, like I was training at one of the top schools in the world. And there was this belief that it's like, this is it, y'all. Training elsewhere just isn't going to be that good. You need to trust what we're saying, because like kind of we're the best. And I mean, maybe that's a simplification of it, but that's the tone that I was picking up on. And we're going to show you and prepare you for how tough the big bad world is, and if you can't make it here, you can't make it anywhere. There was just so many beliefs that were spoken literally or subliminally, that it was very easy to be like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not going to have to make it. I'm like, I can't leave. Everything else isn't even second best. It's like fifth best. It's like 15th best. I'm going to fail if I leave.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm a huge advocate for getting outside of your environment regularly, no matter even if your environment is working for you, get outside of it, because every group has its own bubble of certain beliefs, and some will be helpful and some will be not very helpful. And you're not really going to be able to see that objectively and make decisions about how you want to engage with the group that you're in or the environment, unless you get outside of it and you get that space to think. That's how our own mind works too. And you know this as a coach, Natalie, like helping someone to talk through an issue that they're feeling on the inside gives them the opportunity to witness what's going on the inside of them and make a conscious choice of what they want to do about it. But when you're so in it and it's just on the inside of you and it feels like this really complicated struggle, you're just reacting to the struggle. You're not responding to it. You're not making choices because you're looking at it from a different vantage point. You're so in it that you can't.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's amazing how we are then not able to see the options or the opportunities that we have, like you said, unless you're able to step out of that comfort zone, or just that group of friends or that dance studio or whatever it is. In my case, it was even the country that I live in, like living in Spain. Now I'm like, oh, there's so many other options of how to live. And at first I judged it because I was like, this is not like, why aren't they, I used to be like, why aren't they competitive here? Like, what's wrong with them? They're so not, I was like, they're so not ambitious. This is so bad. And now I love it. And I'm like, this is wonderful. Like, people leave work when their hour finishes and they go home to their families and they like go out for a nice dinner. And I used to be like, lazy Spaniards. And now I'm like, thank you, Spaniards, for teaching me.
We need someone to give the rest of us hope.
Right, but it's what you said. It's like, okay, what are the other alternatives? How can I find a space to get out of my head, get out of my own thoughts, get out of my head? And whether that's with a coach, whether it's traveling, whether it's making a new friend, whether it's visiting a new dance studio, whatever, like all of these are avenues, I guess, towards the same thing, which is just being able to question our own reality.
So then you can make choices about it.
Yeah.
Questioning is obviously the first step. And then, I mean, personally, I've stayed in questioning in my life a little too long, and it's been not fun because it's just like I can get personally, if I stay in question land, I get very cynical, and that's just no way to live. And it's also really not fair to the people around me because I'm just like, how do we know what's true?
Yes.
So it's like, okay, question enough to get some insight and then make a choice and just
Yeah.
go with it for now.
Yes. Oh my goodness. You are so speaking to my soul right now, because I'm exactly the same. And I had to teach myself to come back into my body. That was the only way that I was able to do it. Cause yeah, otherwise I enjoy that kind of like question this, and then the little
Yeah.
conversation that goes on in my own head of like, but what about that thing? And like, oh, but this
Yeah.
perspective over here. And then yeah, I can stay there for a while.
It's
Like, no,
exhausting. It's fun at
yeah.
first. And at least for me, sometimes I can be like, I don't know, I feel like I'm in my own little club. Like, I'm asking the big important questions, and other people can like be like, Kirsten, just stop it. Cut it out. You don't know everything.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I have the same thoughts. It's so funny. Yeah, I have the same thoughts. And then I'm like, but I can't let these questions take away from like just living in my day-to-day life. And I guess this brings us full
Yeah.
circle back around to what we said, what you mentioned at the beginning about dance, is that for you is part of presence. So that we have moments where we can leave this, we can question, or we can think about the future, the past, we can bring all those together and do a fun like mind game with all of that. But then in the end, whether or not you're a professional dancer, you've just started, whether you're someone who lives in a mansion or in a little shared flat with your family, whatever it is, it in the end, it only comes down to each moment of each day and how you enjoy each moment, right? There's not the big things that we think, oh, this is the thing that's gonna, like, when I reach this goal, when I get into that company, or like when I start my own business, or when I get
Yeah.
married, or this or that thing. And then you're like, oh, well, that lasted for all of like an hour. And now I'm back to like being questioning, what am I going to have for dinner tonight, or having to deal with like the neighbor that keeps banging, like, right, that in the end it's those things that make up most of our life.
You're so right. And I've been on this kick lately of talking about measuring success backwards, and I think that's a great way to stay in appreciation for what you have.